Ladies and gentlemen, amidst some NBA Paris games, we have the NFL Conference Championship weekend upon us, and we are back to give you the real in sports. I'm your co-host, Small Town EP, live from Atlanta, joined by your host, Wade Julian, live from New York City. And you are now tuned in to your number one sports talk show on the All Things Sports Network, brought to you by Small Town Productions. Ticker up top, very accurate, and brought to you by ESPN Bet. June, how's the weather treating you up there? I feel like that's all we could talk about right now. It's as cold as hell.
Hey man, I had to cop a ski mask, bro. It's gotten that serious. Look, I mean, I got to keep fucking Vaseline on my lips. Excuse my language. I don't want to get into cursing too early, but I had to keep Vaseline on my lips. Moisturize. I got Jergens lotion in a couple of my pockets of my jackets and stuff. So it hasn't been treating me the nicest, but I will say this. I know that in the summertime, I'm going to be like, man, I'd rather be cold in this subway station right now than sweating, my tail off. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's championship football season. Obviously, you see, it's that time of year. I'm when I do this, I'm not like repping the Chiefs. I got this Fire Priest Holmes jersey on that I got to throw in a couple times a year because, shouts to the legend. One, two, they always find the way to get back, right here. January 20 something, we're talking about them. And typically it's versus the Bills. It is again this time versus the Bills. I'm excited. I'm not trying to set the show, E. I'm just letting you know how the weather's treating me. That was your question. And so with all that, being as though we are deep in January, you see, I had to wear the long sleeve under, you know what I'm saying? Because the weather. So things are beautiful right now, if you haven't seen. But how you doing? That's what I want to know.
Hey man, I cannot be bad. I'm freezing in Atlanta too. We were not supposed to have snow again after the 4.5 inches that we got like a week and a half ago.
Pause,
And
yeah.
Lord and behold, earlier this week we get some snow that wasn't supposed to hit us. And we got like a little, a little quarter, little half inch of snow. It wasn't that crazy. It was melted by 9 p.m. that night. But it's cold, man. It's cold. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm from Florida, bro. It's
Yeah. Hey, it snowed in Florida. It snowed in Louisiana. You saw Bourbon Street at Biloxi Beach, Mississippi was Blizzard Beach, Mississippi. Like,
yeah.
what's going on? And so those conversations with those podcasts are going to be interesting as we start to hear those episodes coming out. But this is sports, bro. What we got? What's on the docket?
Let's go. Let's go. I know we have already referenced, and we are very decked down in championship weekend gear. But before we get to that, Monday's podcast, we previewed, or I should say, you and Kev. I was in the background, doing the production. I was there in spirit and behind the scenes with you guys. We previewed the college football championship, in which ultimately Ohio State 34, Notre Dame 23. June, real quick, what was it specifically about that second quarter that Ohio State did right and was able to just pull away? It didn't matter what Notre Dame did after that.
I I don't even know if it was the second quarter. To me, it was from the start of the game. Ohio State seemed to just have everything clicking. Will Howard completed damn near every pass um, in the first half, and so the rhythm was just there, timing was there, and Notre Dame couldn't figure out really how to stop, the offense. They couldn't get pressure, and Will Howard was putting balls on the line, like pause, like he was throwing darts through defenders, and I have to give a lot of credit to Will Howard for stepping up in a moment and in a game where you're supposed to win. He shined, and he deserved this win along with all those. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith. Shout out to the guy who
Big
really made
Broward.
it happen as a freshman. And that's we love repping Broward, and it's just so much more impressive that he's a 18-year-old freshman. In the country doing what he did on the biggest stage in Atlanta that night. So shout out to Ohio State Coach Day. I think how they handled everything from opening day to adversity, losing to Oregon, it was tough. It was tough, but they figured we're better than most of these teams, if not every team in the country. And so we just got to win the games when we got to win them. And since then, they've done so. And uh, Chip Kelly deserves a lot too because their offense has looked great. And this wouldn't have been another way for them to win it than putting on a show. If you ask me.
I ain't even gonna lie to you. I ain't watch it past the second half, and I know the box score says, "Hey, it turned up to be an almost close game," but I watched the first half, and you and I know
You
what
and I
went.
know.
Yeah, you and I know what went down. Listen, we I want to move over and move forward. We spoke briefly yesterday through text about the kind of position, the environment, the current status, the state of the union of the Southeastern Conference that is the SEC. And
Yeah.
we didn't see, if I'm not mistaken, any of those teams in the semifinals. Actually, I lied. Texas was
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Texas.
Texas was there. Georgia, we know what happened to them when they ran into Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. Uh, Tennessee didn't make it out of the first round. Ohio State, by the way, before we actually get in, I want to take a step back. Ohio State trailed in these college football playoffs for 6 minutes only. And they were the 6 minutes that they took to score after Notre Dame scored
Yeah, yeah,
that first drive. Ohio State completely dominated these playoffs,
yeah,
including the 42-17 first round win over Tennessee. The SEC just not looking good. We saw Alabama not even make the playoffs. And the SEC is just it used to be this dominant powerhouse, specifically, particularly in the football region. And
yeah.
these days, with the 12-team playoff with NIL, we're seeing a lot of parity. What does the SEC move forward? What are their next steps to maybe regain that powerhouse conference that they were? Or are we just going to see this parity for, to be continued?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of moving parts this season in college football in general. So it's tough to kind of gather everything that we saw from this summer to now and make one opinion on it personally for me. And I wouldn't go so far to say like the SEC is in danger or like they're still the best conference in football, if you ask me. Now, couple big things, Nick Saban leaving Alabama is huge, right? That's the best coach in college football. Um, but also with the transfer portal, with NIL, it just gives for more opportunity around the country than just this region to get all the best players. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to still come to the SEC first. The SEC still has first dibs on a lot of the guys that the rest of the country wishes they can get. But that doesn't say that at the end of the day, the Big Ten is not, or the ACC is not getting top quality as well. And all they needed was the opportunity, and that proved this year. 12-team playoff. They said, listen, you can win most of your games. You can lose two, maybe three of your games, depending if you're in the SEC, four, if they wanted to push it. I don't know, but
Yeah.
you can do that and possibly get in. So with that pressure, I think coming down a little bit and players being able to play a little freer or a little more freely, I think it gives for the parity. Speaking to that, but speaking more specifically to the SEC and what they can do, I think they just got to continue playing football. I mean, they're going to continue to get the best players, as I just mentioned. So it shouldn't be anything of a theory or a concept for real, but it is alarming to me that in the first year that we have a 12-team playoff, you could be like, yo, they didn't get an SEC team in the final four, and it's Texas. But Texas is the first year SEC team. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, and obviously they faced the SEC schedule this year, and I'm not discrediting Texas at all. I'm more so crediting Texas for being there regardless of whatever conference they were in, and the SEC having representation from the Final Four being the newest team that they just got in, um, who couldn't score from first and goal on the 1 yard line. But
Neither here nor there, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to point out Nick Saban on the Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark recently saying that the worst career-wise decision that he ever made was leaving LSU to go to Miami. Um, and obviously he came back to college football in Alabama and ran tables for years, as we know. Legendary coach. I I think the SEC will be all right. I like this parity that we're seeing in college football. It makes it fair. It makes it fun. It's as a viewer, um, it makes it fair. It makes it fun. I've enjoyed it. I think the SEC will be all right, especially with the additions that they've made. Texas, they're looking like they're here to make a statement and make a statement for the next couple of years.
Yeah. I think just also on a exposure, level, it's great for college football. You got kids that are going to um, I don't have a random school that I have an example for, but okay, let's go with like SMU, right? SMU is now part of the ACC, and SMU never had a shot to go to the national championship, even if they were undefeated. I mean, maybe, but the kids at SMU nowadays are getting way more exposure, uh, being able to go and get to the college football playoff like that. But that's just one example. There's different schools, so that's why I also agree with you that I think it is more fun. And when you say fair, that's one way that I look at fairness, because being able to not have to go to Alabama and compete for the seventh, receiver spot, you can go to XYZ school and compete and possibly have a great season and maybe get to the playoff. So
Whew. All right. Let's kick it over to the NFL because there's a lot going on before we can even get to the conference championship weekend and talk about any of the great games that we're going to have this weekend. We got to talk about some head coaching hires. June, a couple of seasons ago, we talked about an Aaron Rodgers heading over to One Jet Drive. And it seems like there's a new Aaron in town. The Jets hire Aaron Glenn on a 5-year deal, tying him to the Jets until 2029. This is someone that was drafted by the New York Jets, started his coaching career as a scout for the New York Jets, and now
mhm.
he is back as a head coach. Two Aarons in town. How does this work? And will it work between Aaron Glenn and Aaron Rodgers? And keeping in mind, does this work with Aaron Glenn and the Jets general manager?
So it's a lot to process. I don't have the answer, Sway. I don't know what Aaron Glenn right now is thinking about Rodgers and what that future holds. I don't even know if he knows. I'm sure they've spoken. I'm sure they've had a initial conversation. But Aaron Rodgers is at a point where he's said that he's going to take time and think about what he wants to do. That he'll let the Jets know what he says, and then based on if it's coming back, he'll see what the Jets want to do, and if they want to do that and he does that, then he'll do that. But if not, then he'll try to see what he can do. And so I think that's the first part of this whole equation that we have to wait and see. I can speculate and you can speculate, but we do not speculate on the All Things Sports podcast about Aaron Rodgers or his future. You never know with this guy. We tried it, and it was exhausting. How do they say it? And let me tell you, and let me tell you, it was exhausting 2 years ago when we had to figure out where he was going and eventually ended up as a New York Jet. So let that situation play out. For me, this hire is deeper than Aaron Rodgers. It's bigger than what the future looks like with this current roster. I think that Aaron Glenn should be there for the next X amount of years, barring any type of crazy looks that we get. But to me, he's a great coach, and for him to be alumni as well, going back to a team that drafted him, I feel that there's a connection there. There's a culture building story there, and the Jets need this. They need someone to not to say Coach Salah was all of the problem. I definitely do put blame on him, and do ultimately think that they were going to have to fire him regardless at the end of the day. Uh, with Aaron Glenn, they have to understand that it's time to turn over a new rock and try to let him lead. We just saw what they did against you know NFC North, if you will, or just the NFC all year defensively. And my thing is, I have more to say on that Lions defense. I just don't think we should look at the last game of the season for the Lions as Aaron Glenn's introduction to the Jets. Uh, they're better than that. So shout out to Aaron Glenn. I think they'll be good.
Yeah, there's a lot of uh I guess naysayers that are kind of criticizing the hire and saying, why are you hiring Salah Part Two, a defensive minded head coach? I don't agree with that. This is much different. This is someone that was in the trenches at one point in his career and knows what the ins and outs are of on a daily basis for a NFL player. And he's a player's coach. He's a guy's guy. I'm excited for Aaron
Now,
Glenn.
now, it is there is a difference between Salah and Glenn, and I hate to cut you off, sorry, but he is a player's coach. It seems, and he's a guy. He's a locker room guy. I do believe he's going to have that. I think he understands that he needs to have that distinction between being a player's coach and being a coach, but also keeping it cool because Dan Campbell, I think, is a great example of how you can be like a player's coach and uh, it works. Now, the problem, here's my thing. Ben Johnson just signed with the Bears, right? Can we
Mm-hmm.
talk about that? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely,
So,
absolutely. Ben
so
Johnson just signed. I started to cut you off. It's very funny. Not that he stayed in the same division, but that he decided to take a jab at Matt LaFleur throughout his, during his press conference. I thought that was very interesting. Um,
I didn't hear
uh,
that.
yeah, he was talking about how the division is full of uh potential coach of the year candidates. With Kevin O'Connell and Dan Campbell. He wanted to have the opportunity to coach against them. And he said, quote unquote, and I enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice a year. I, I don't know what Ben Johnson's doing, what he has in his head. You're walking into a situation that's completely dysfunctional.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see how it turns out. Caleb Williams is
yeah.
excited to have Ben Johnson there. How do you feel about Ben Johnson, newly acquired head coach for the Chicago Bears?
Okay, so let's do this. Stay with me. Walk with me here. Wait for Ben Johnson real quick, right? I still want to say something about Aaron Glenn. And it's one and the same. And so as I do feel excited for Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams and that playbook we saw, being able to be used with a quarterback like that and some weapons that they have, there's way more issues that the Bears have to figure out clearly. Uh, Starting with the quarterback too. But with Aaron Johnson walking in, they both seem to be the player's coach kind of guy, right? And I just mentioned how it can work. We saw how you can get to a 15-win team and get a first round bye with a player's coach. Mike McDaniel, you would imagine, is described as a player's coach, right? And dare I say this, I would like to exclude Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that they're at a level of they have a great coach. They have two Hall of Famers. They have two greatest of all time players at their positions. It's a little unfair to put them into this argument. But does the players coach win? Because the Lions got they choked. They
Yeah,
choked at
yeah, yeah.
home. They had a 15-1 record or 15-win season, sorry, 15-2 record, and won the division, got the first round bye, and lost. And I'm not discrediting Washington and how great of a season they've had, how big Jaden Daniels has played in big moments. And we're gonna talk about Jaden Daniels and the Eagles coming up in a little bit. But let's talk about the Lions just for one more moment because we can't let them off the hook. And now their coaches found other ways, and I think they'll find their success. I do. But what I'm asking is, does the players coach? Is that the winning coach? You know what I'm saying? Is that the winning coach? I don't know. I don't know.
Uh, it's tough. It's tough because while you're a player's coach, it could not come off, but it's a fine line between being a player's coach and babying players, and letting whatever go down, whatever happens, letting your starting QB go to Egypt, miss OTAs, and just come back like nothing happened. You know what I mean? So there
Right.
has to be a fine line.
Or like letting your star player who makes $49 million a year, come late and skip team flights. We're gonna suspend him, when he does that. So I understand completely.
I want to kick it over to the chat. Ant in there, Ray in there. Ant's asking, will the Lions be a playoff team for the next 2 to 3 years? June, how do you feel about that?
Yeah. Their roster is too good. Like they'll figure out coaching. Dan Campbell's gonna find a guy that can work with Goff and the guys in the room, but they have pro 4 Pro Bowlers, you know what I'm saying, on that offense. Easy, maybe 5. You could put they probably got 5 to 6 Pro Bowlers on that offensive line included. So
Ooh. Now, let's take it to Chicago, like we were saying. Ben Johnson just hired as the head coach in Chicago.
Yeah.
Do you like this hire for Chicago? And specifically, do you like this hire for Caleb Williams? We talk a lot about, well, I wouldn't say we talk a lot about, but I asked a couple of weeks ago during one of the pods, do the Bears have what it takes to develop Caleb Williams moving forward? Is this a good first step for that, June?
Yeah, I think this is a good first step. The Bear, whenever we talk about the Bears, it's like quarterback, really, And what we saw from Caleb Williams this year is it was underwhelming, being as though what we saw from Jaden Daniels was so, oh my God, it's like the CJ Stroud Bryce Young effect almost. Now, it's not to the extent of where we kind of crucified Bryce Young last year, or not we, but, a lot of people really, really quit on him within the first 10 weeks of his rookie year. And so I don't think Caleb Williams played that poorly. And he definitely had a good year. Like, you know what I'm saying? He did some good things and threw a lot of balls for a long way. But Ben Johnson, the creativity factor of his offense is great. But I want to see more. You know what? No, I want to just let this play out. I think it'll work. I don't know how it's going to work. And what he did in Detroit was impressive enough to me to say, you know what, I do think with a guy like Caleb Williams, it's like one of those how can you fail moments, So it's really the ball's in his court, and I hope that we finally can see Chicago with a franchise quarterback or someone who develops into be that, because they really never had that.
The Bears. We'll see. Like you said, we're gonna let this play out. We're gonna let
it's definitely a positive thing. It's definitely you're celebrating if you're in Chicago. You're happy for this. This is a great move, the one you wanted. I mean, I wanted Shane Steichen in Indianapolis 2 years ago when Anthony Richardson or CJ Stroud was going to be our quarterback. It's something to be excited about when you have an offensive-minded younger head coach. But seeing what we saw from Shane Steichen and how he handled, the media this year with the Anthony Richardson situation, it could go either way, bro. And I never thought that we was going to see that from the Colts and Shane Steichen specifically. I think he figured things out toward the end of the season, and things, I don't know, it's up in the air right now, but he still lives to see another day. But I don't want this Ben Johnson situation to turn into that within a matter of 3 years. I think that they continue to put the pieces around him, and Ryan Poe's, the GM, drafts well, or continues to draft well and be aggressive in free agency. They kind of have the blueprint to the success. It's just they got to go get it. They're in a tough division.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, let's take it to conference championship weekend, and we'll go in order. The NFC is up first. The Washington Commanders, the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia 6-point favorites at home. This is the third time that these teams will meet this season. Obviously, they're in the same division. The season series is tied 1-1. Oh, man. This is going to be an exciting game. We got potential rookie of the year in Jaden Daniels in the conference championship game. against the division rival, something that we thought we may not see, neither here nor there, but they won out the last 5, 6 games of the season, and they've obviously won out in the playoffs, and they are playing the Eagles on the road in Philadelphia. Oh, Saquon Barkley saw them twice this year, of course.
Mm-hmm.
The first time he saw them, 26 carries, 146 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5.6 yards a carry. The second time in the loss was still 29 carries, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, again, 5.2 yards per carry. June, 2 questions. How does Washington slow Saquon down, if at all?
Next
Two,
question. They can't. Go ahead.
two, what does Philly need to do to make sure that Washington doesn't break this tiebreaker with a win?
Yeah. Well, just to clarify what I said, they can't stop him or slow him down. Saquon has ran for over 1,000 yards in his career against the Commanders in just 11 games and has scored 12 touchdowns. That's a season, in 11 games. That's a season. That's like a great season for a running back in 11 games versus one franchise. And so nothing has changed but the color and the logo and the city. That's it.
Yeah, word to
That's
spitter. Ain't
it.
shit changed but the address.
Ain't nothing changed but that. And I'm thank you. But that doesn't go to say that the Eagles are going to dominate this game, right? That doesn't go to say that Saquon Barkley is just going to run for 200 yards like he did for the Rams versus the Rams 2 times. But it just puts that much more pressure onto Washington in figuring out how they're going to be able to scrape this one out. Because to me, what was your second question? Just to be clear, because I heard Saquon. How could he be stopped?
how does Philly make sure that Washington doesn't break the tie have the
Yeah,
tiebreaker
win the
with
game.
a win?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So versus pressure, Jaden Daniels is playing amazing in the playoffs. But the Eagles, their thing is to get to the quarterback and bring that pressure. And uh, I I was talking to my uncle earlier, and I was telling him like I'm not getting high off that Jaden Daniels, like magic. And as much as to me, I'm not gonna go there, but like you see, you know what? You see certain people that are like, yo, that looks real cool. I want to try that. Right? Me, I'm like, yo, that looks real cool. I'm gonna just let y'all try. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let y'all try that. I'm gonna let y'all enjoy that. It do look real cool though. Like y'all do y'all thing, bro. Um, that one weird little plant that grows out the ground that tastes, stuff like that. So like Jaden Daniels has had an amazing season. He has had an amazing playoff so far. One game versus the Lions and another game versus the Bucks, right? On the
Yep.
road. Warrior. I'm not doubting his skill. I'm not. I'm not. But I'd have to emphasize that the Lions folded. The Lions folded. And not to say their defense just folded. On offense, they had 5 turnovers. And on defense, they looked like they were playing. It looked like the Rose Bowl between Georgia and Oklahoma in 2018, where Baker Mayfield threw for like 500 yards. Like it was bad. And so Aaron Glenn, leading that defense minus a bunch of players because of injury, and Ben Johnson leading that offense, to me, in the biggest game of the season, were underwhelmingly bad. Like poor performance. Poor performance. And not to say they didn't put up points. It's not that. It's not about putting up just 40 points. You can put up 50 points and lose, and it don't matter. It's winning a game and having a plan to win a game. That plan was to just score more, it seemed like. And Washington is well equipped to do that with you. And that's where you fucked up. So for me, Philadelphia, play your game. Y'all get to the quarterback. Y'all not Washington getting, and this is no disrespect. This is the best defense in the league. Jalen Carter is soon to be the best defensive player in our league. And he's got a lot of dogs with him in that front seven that's trying to get to the quarterback and disrupt stuff and is athletic enough to play in coverage, right? They are missing N'Kobe Dean, which I think is it's not huge, but I think it's a big deal. Quinyon Mitchell was hurt in that game, but he's coming back. Jalen Hurts is healthy. He's coming back from that injury. So to me, it's just you play the defense that you guys have played all season, especially for the last 8 to 9 weeks. And Saquon Barkley, dog, do what you do against Washington, bro. Just do what you do against Washington. Jalen Hurts, it should be easy, just like last week. You ain't had to do too much, and that's cool. They don't. You need to do what you need to do. That's it. At the end of the day, you just got to do what you need to do. The offense is set up for you to make the right decision and turn around and hand the ball off and run when you got to. And so through all that, that's how I think the Eagles are going to beat the Commanders on Sunday. It should be a good game. It might get you know what? No, we saw two good games versus these teams during the season. I think that with the hype being there, with the talent on both sides being there, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a good game. But when you can control the line of scrimmage on both sides, it feels longer than it actually is. So
Mm.
a long game might be a good one.
Mm. Shout out to Ant in the trap. In the trap. Wow. All right.
Yo,
Anyway,
in the trap.
Ant
Yo,
in the
snitch.
chat. Yeah, I was like, yo, you know what? I can't even explain that one. I'm
You're a
gonna see.
narc, bro.
He's in the chat saying Eagles by 8 or 9 or
Mm,
more is what he's saying. Now
that's
the
tough.
Commanders, 8 out of their 12 wins this regular season came by one score. One of their two games in this postseason came by one score. The Philadelphia Eagles 14-win season. 7 of those 14 wins came by one score. June, are those 6 points that Vegas has given Philly not enough?
I think it's around that. I think it's clearly gonna be a close game. It's gonna be a close game. The last time this team played, I think Jaden Daniels threw a game winning touchdown, right? At the end of the
33-36. Yep.
game. So, I don't expect Philadelphia to come out here and dominate the game. I do expect them to dominate the line of scrimmage. I do. I don't expect them to dominate the game. Uh Look, Washington's gonna be ready, man. I know that. I know that for a fact. Washington's gonna be ready. But that six, what is it, 6.5?
Six right now. We'll
Six.
see what happens come this weekend, but six right
Six.
now.
And you want to go talk him off that ledge right now, E? Because 8 or 9 or more. I mean, shit, it's tough.
Hey man, those lights get bright, man. Those
They
lights
do,
get
but
bright.
but they but they weren't in Ford Field, right? And
Mm,
they were in Tampa Bay. And guess what?
mm.
Clutch moments, and that's why I'm not discrediting anything Washington has done this season or in the playoffs. I'm not. I think they have ultimately met their match, and a team that they have a lot on the line. And listen to me, Nathaniel Peterson, EP. If you would have told anybody in the Eagles locker room in August or in September, y'all gonna be in the NFC Championship versus the Washington Commanders, be ready. They'd be like, what? Say less, right? And so we're here right now. And the moment, whether it's too big for either side, we're gonna find out. I do think the Eagles are gonna win in a close one though.
Mm. I'm gonna stay away from the game. If I was a gambling man, wink, wink, I probably would not bet this game and just sit back, make some popcorn, and enjoy this one because it's gonna be very entertaining. That game scheduled for Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fox. NFC Championship, Lincoln Financial Field, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. CBS or Paramount Plus, however you want to shake it up. We got Buffalo, we got Kansas City. June 2020 AFC Conference Championship. Kansas City, Buffalo. Kansas City comes out on top 38-24. 2021 divisional round, in a game that gave me severe anxiety the entire time for 60 game
Hey,
minutes. Overtime win for Kansas City, 42-36. Whew. 2023 divisional round. Another close one. Kansas City comes out on top, 27-24. Whew. 2024 conference championship. We are here, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Buffalo at Kansas City. Kansas City 2-point favorites at the crib. Vegas saying Buffalo's about a point better at this point in the season. June, is that an accurate statement, do you think?
no,
Mm.
no, no. Buffalo better. That's what I heard.
Buffalo a point better is what uh is what Vegas is saying.
I mean, you listen. Gambling for those Pat McAfee fans. I haven't winked, right? I mean, I don't necessarily always catch on to the terms. So in that world, I mean, a point better, give or take, bro. But do I think they're better than them? Do I think they're going to win the game? No. You know what I'm saying? When we're talking about football and we're talking about Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes, you just mentioned the history, right? That sticks with you. That sticks with you. Some people or franchises more than others. I think the Bills are the biggest example of that. And unfortunately, like I got this Chiefs jersey on. Shout out to the Chiefs, man. They made the AFC Championship. Look, win, lose, or draw, I don't give a damn what happens, right?
And say he thought that was a Giants alt jersey in the chat.
That's mad funny. He's awesome. That's Priest Holmes. Um, I don't care who wins the game, but I do believe the Bills' dreams are going to come crashing down once again, once
Mm.
again. And um, there's a lot of cool storylines here, right? Three-peat, Bills finally being able to win a Super Bowl from the Jim Kelly era, heartbreaks. Commanders led by a rookie, and Eagles, being able to finally get that or get another, I guess, championship within the last 10 years, and if they get to do it against Chiefs, even better. Like there's a bunch of stories, but there's also reality. And the best player in the world, along with the best coach in the game and the best defensive coordinator, arguably, they got a plan. They got a plan this Sunday to protect their home. At home. At home. We've seen this story before. And I've watched football enough. I haven't covered football. I mean, I did cover football at the point where Brady was still playing at an elite level as well. So I can say this: I'm not no fool. You say he's gonna lose. You say they're gonna beat him. He's him. He's the him we're talking about now. There has to be someone, and it's Patrick Mahomes. And so right now, the immovable object force, whatever you want to call him, he's in the way. He's just in the way. And sorry, sorry. Like my uncle say, go that way.
Go that
Go
away.
that way. It's no if ands. And look, I could be, sipping the juice, whatever they say. You can use any phrase, but when it comes down to championship divisional football in Kansas City, the Chiefs don't lose. Joe Burrow was the only one to crack the code. Nobody's done it since. Nobody did it before, except who? Tom Brady. And that was like the passing of the torch right there, where he was like, "Got you, my brother. Now it's your turn. You had to feel this one real quick,
21-9. Trust me, I haven't forgotten.
and you'll lose to a Joe Burrow soon. Don't worry. Don't let that be the. That's not the one. Trust me. There's gonna be another guy who he'll never. You know Peyton Manning? He'll never beat you. But guess what? Let me say this too, because I mentioned my goat. Peyton Manning, 2006. They beat him. But let me tell you this too. Brady had an interception. Patrick Mahomes, I don't see him throwing an interception. And that's me coming off of this season being Patrick Mahomes' statistically lower season,
most
lower.
most intercepted season.
He had bad stats on paper. It looked like, how the hell they 15 and so Patrick Mahomes ain't making mistakes right now. And he's not the type to do it right now. He understands what it means in this moment. He fooled around and tried to figure out all this shit he could do with these guys early in the season. We saw a lot of crazy bullshit from Patrick Mahomes this year that we were like, all right, what's going on? They've got the win, but we saw one game of them, in the playoffs just last week. But we got to see they ain't effing off. You know what I'm saying? So uh Chiefs, man. Chiefs gonna break their heart again.
Hmm. Chiefs money line. George Karlaftis over 1.5 sacks. This is not financial advice by any means necessary, but that boy George Karlaftis.
Hey, and put and if you win big money, now if you win in fucking $50 off George Karlaftis sacks, like go somewhere. But if you win in big money off this George Karlaftis sacks parlay, donate some of that, just a little. It could be a little bit to one of Chris Jones foundations or charities because that brother had helped you win that money for real. You know what I'm saying?
No
That
cap.
that's the source right there. And so, real quick, Ant in the chat saying, "Oh snap, is Joe Burrow the Eli Manning to Mahomes?" No, and I say no because Joe Burrow does not have a championship. Eli has two. Eli's beat him twice in a championship game, and I haven't seen Joe Burrow do something similar. So I can't do that.
Yeah, hey man, it's I don't know. It's gonna be a great game as it always is between these two. I used to pray for times like this. I say it every year. You know, I'm excited. We're
Yo,
back.
y'all really like the Warriors of the NBA, bro, and it's crazy because what up, Jason in the chat? Y'all really like the Warriors, man, and those like live this, bruh. Live this. Like even this week, like when you feel like you stressing or something, remind yourself, bruh. Yo, the Chiefs are in the midst of possible history like that we've never seen before, bro. And this is for real because when let's say for example when LeBron joined Miami, right? That was bliss for me. But I'm 15 years old, you know what I'm saying? Days go by like this and I don't watch Heat basketball every night. I didn't watch every single game, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't take advantage of LeBron James being in Miami and what that really was. And as much as I enjoyed it and loved it and watched it, there was so much more that I probably could have loved and enjoyed and watched. And so the Warriors, that was a time. Like that time has come to an end. And for us to see in real time, now LeBron James left Cleveland, Miami to go to Cleveland. And it was like, all right, well, yeah, now obviously Miami, that shit over. Excuse me. But the Warriors kind of just fizzle out, right? With respect because they have paid their players and it's just not the same anymore. And now Clay is gone and things have just changed over there. But it was a great time and what a time to be alive. I mean, they had Kevin Durant during that time. I say all that to say y'all are in the midst right now, of whew, what we ain't never seen. And so just live this for real. Like you still got Patrick Mahomes on the team and this football, so you'll have him for a minute, and you guys are gonna keep him around, guys. Andy Reid's probably like feeling 5 years younger, especially if he wins this one. He probably feel 10 years younger. It's just like wow, and so that's why I give my hat off to the Chiefs and my respect because this is some shit they really got going on. And let's talk about the refs real quick, right? I do hope if you've ever heard the phrase the refs are letting them play today. You ever heard that one?
Yes, sir.
Or yeah. I hope they show the definition of what that means when that guy says that phrase on Sunday. Just let them play. Let them play. Don't be the hero. Make the calls you need to make, please, because we can't afford pass interference, 1st and 10 on 3rd down when the wide receiver is the one doing it. We can't afford roughing the passer, you know. So Mahomes is trying to sell calls now because he knows that y'all giving it to them. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, that's got to show like, all right, I ain't gonna lie, we be mutting it. Mahomes really just trying to get anything. When he's at the point of going out of bounds and doing this, I don't blame him because shit, you might get 15 yards, but the refs got to look at themselves like, yeah, we're probably doing too much, you know. So hopefully we see a as fairly, you know, ref game as we can. But otherwise, man, I think it's going to be great. Well, what's to say it's not going to be a good game based on the history and the way these two teams are playing at this point of the season with an MVP talent quarterback and the best quarterback in the game who has just found a way to win every week.
Are we gonna see a Kansas City and Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl rematch, June?
I mean, that's what I said, you know? That's what I said. And the reason I made that face, though, is because, like, that low key might be a boring Super Bowl. No, like Washington versus uh Buffalo. I ain't gonna lie, that shit would be lit. Yo, Washington Buffalo. If that's the only way I want those two teams to win for real, for real. Like if Washington wins, Buffalo gotta win, and vice versa. Like if that happens, bro, we gonna see a fun Super Bowl. It's gonna be a lot of offense in that game. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't think we'll see a bad game, but I do think we'll see maybe a slow Bills. Excuse me, sorry, Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl. I think it could be a little boring, but not a bad game.
June, you got anything else you want to go over before we get up out of here?
Well, I did kind of allude to it in a joking way, but Jimmy Butler gets suspended again, you know, by the Heat. This is just past its boiling point, and um, Eric Spoelstra has finally addressed the media on it today. He had a quote. I don't want to give the quote on what it was, but he basically said what I spoke to my guys and told them was, you know, like if you thought it, you know, deal with this, you know, like this is what comes with the NBA life we chose, right? And so if you thought that there was ever going to be a time where things don't just happen out of the ordinary or whatever, like you're wrongly mistaken, you know what I'm saying? And so that was his point today, and you could tell that he's just at a, you know, over with mindset with this, and it's leaking onto the court. We are losing games. um and my thing with Jimmy Butler, because he's still a member of the Heat, and so I'll talk about him. We all know he wants to leave, and I said it. I feel like I might be saying the same thing at the end of the day. Every time we talk about him, we all know he wants to leave, but it's kind of sad to see what he's done to his legacy because, um, you know, you're on a $49 million deal. You got an option for 52 player option next year, and you want to be traded. Now, you're averaging 17 points a game, you know, and so the 3 games you've since come back, you haven't scored 40 points combined. You know, it's just like you're the ultimate competitor, and that's what we know you as. And for you to be, you know, doing this prima donna, you know, diva stuff is just like
Mm-hmm.
too, I understood it. I could say I don't get it anymore. You know, I think it's pretty classless. So I don't know if that's the word, classless. I don't know if that's the word, but I think it's annoying as fuck. I'll say that. I do think it's annoying as fuck, and I can't wait till, you know, we finally do trade him. But we'll weather the storm. Like we're mentally tough enough to weather this storm, and understand that he's going to do whatever he does. But it's not fun. It's just not fun to watch Heat basketball when you see your player is dejected, when, you know, others are trying to do good. I mean, we got smoked by Portland at home. I was talking shit about Golden State getting smoked by 40 to the Celtics on Martin Luther King Day, and the Heat winning got smoked by Portland uh, at home. So that's way more embarrassing. And we got smoked. The final score was close. It was like 9 points.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't a 9 point game.
It
No, no,
was
no, no,
not.
no, no. It was a 25-point game. That's what it was. And so I would also like to mention Khalil Ware is very exciting to watch as a rookie, 7 footer. He's got a shot. We saw him versus the Spurs, 25 points. We saw him versus the Blazers with over 20 points and over 15 rebounds. So promising future for him and Bam defensively. Tyler obviously turning the corner and becoming this all-star guard in this East. We got to get over this Jimmy thing and figure this out soon because there might not be time to like write it this year and but just in the sense of keeping people meant we're live, right? And so this is me fighting myself, playing devil's advocate in my own mind, where I'm like, we aren't one of the mentally strongest teams, I would argue. And so
Yeah,
having
Spoelstra
this
said so.
situation, as tough as it is, you know, there's periods where this guy, that guy, them, they get up and go to work and don't want to do it or feel like they don't want to go or feel like there might be this energy at work that they're not messing with at the moment, or they're having a moment personally where things are, we all have gone through that. And so if that's what we're doing right now, then I guess that's what we do until we figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And that's like toxic relationship shit, where you could be like the person who's like, I don't deal with shit like that. I don't even argue with my girl. Shit, I'm out. You could do that, or you could be like, "No, we're gonna argue. We're gonna figure it out though until we don't." And so that's kind of where we at with this marriage, and it's gotten ugly. And yeah, shout out to Ant, shout out to Jason in the chat. I don't really got much else to say, but I do think that we are 1 week away, or less than a week away, from being able to say that the Chiefs are going to their third straight Super Bowl. I do, I do.
Hey, in other news, Wemby went back home today and dropped a double-double on the Pacers' head top.
Mm.
Spurs scored 60 in the first half, 80 in the second half. Final score 140-10. Hey, I took Spurs plus 3.5 at some pretty good odds, so I ain't too
That's
mad.
what
I
I'm
made.
talking about, though. Like, did they go on a business trip or did they go on a group trip? Because you said 140 to 110, but
After taking a 9-hour flight.
The Spurs. We talking about the Timberwolves and the Spurs. Like, what have the Timberwolves come to? I want to talk about more basketball going forward, and we'll get into the NBA as it keeps heating up. Right now, we're getting to those dog days before the All-Star break, and then it's gonna ramp up. But what are the Timberwolves doing, getting smoked in Paris by the Spurs?
Pacers.
Oh, it was the Pacers.
It was. Did I say Timberwolves? I gotta
No,
go.
you might not have. You might not have. Maybe I just brought that up and heard it. I was just perplexed that they would be losing to the Spurs like that. Okay, that's a little more appropriate. It's not. I mean, 30 points in the NBA, I think it's still embarrassing, whichever way you cut it. But I guess.
Mans went home and put a show on for the
Shout out to
hometown
them.
team. Hey man, there are 8 games left for the NBA tonight. One of which is live right now. Trailblazers at the Magic. There are like 11 NHL games this evening that you can tap into, 4 of which are live right now. I'm not going to go over all of them. Speaking of the Warriors that we did bring up a couple of times, they play the Bulls tonight at home. The line is currently Golden State -1.5. I took the Bulls plus 3.5 at -140. It's just not looking good in Golden State. If I had a play of the day segment, this would be the play of the day. The Bulls plus 3.5 -140. It's going to be a close one. If you want to sprinkle the money line, be my guest. But Steph Curry gets more angry and more angry as the days go by, and one of these days, he's probably gonna put up 50 on someone's head. So I don't want my cash on the other end of that. You heard?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I do
Today
like
he
the
ain't doing that.
I do like the Bulls today. He's a game time decision, as he will be moving forward more than likely. But I do like the Bulls this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, as we cross this 56-minute mark, this has been your Thursday night NFL Conference Championship All Things Sports
Yeah.
podcast on the All
And
Things
no, I'm
Sports
not trying to
Network.
jinx EP, Jason. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not.
Nah, man, jinxes don't work, right, June?
Hey, man.
Hey, if you tapped in on the live, we appreciate you so much, man. Shout out to Cam, shout out to Jason, shout out to Ant. Thank you so much. If you tapped in and you didn't say anything, that's cool too. We appreciate your time for tuning in after the fact. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy days and your busy schedules to hang out with us here for an hour. If you're listening to this,
Facts.
we will see you all Monday evening. We'll see you all after conference championship weekend. You guys